What's going on, people? Welcome to the opposition preview. I'm joined by Pete from the Loaded Mag NUFC YouTube channel. The link will be in the description down below. We are here to, of course, get all the insights ahead of the game against Newcastle on the weekend. Make sure to get involved. Leave down your thoughts and comments in the comment section down below, and drop a like and subscribe if you are new here. Pete, Newcastle. I'll be honest, on Monday night, what I saw from Newcastle was something that I was not expecting. Even like around Newcastle fans, there was a lot of hope. Maybe it's going to be 3-0, 4-0. Like what type of performance are we going? What type of scoreline is going to be? But never did I even think, as a Palace fan, as a neutral, that you would lose against West Ham, and not just lose, but in the way that you did. But before we do actually get into that game, sum up your season so far. How are you feeling as a Newcastle fan?
Mixed emotions. If I'm going to be honest with you, bro, like it's been really up and down for Newcastle this season, and I'll be honest, I never expected it to be one game a week, no European football. I expected us to really attack every single game, and we just haven't. Like, we've been really up and down. Like, we were picking up points when we weren't playing well at the beginning of the season. Then performances improved and we weren't picking up points. And then the last three games, Chelsea in the Cup, Arsenal, and then Forest, we almost reverted back to sort of like 2022 when we got the Champions League. And it was like those performances were exactly the same. We thought, you know what? He's reverted back to type. We're back. Put those results together. I was one of them. I was bouncing into West Ham. I couldn't wait for that game. I was gutted it was Monday night. Every fan flocked in on Monday. Could not wait for that game. And then we get that performance. And you're right. We started well on Monday, but what I saw after that was just really, really bad, and it just got worse and worse as it went along. And it was. I'm not going to lie, it's a bit of a concern for me, the manner in which we lost that game, because I'm going to be honest, and I don't know what your opinion is on it. I don't think West Ham were that good. I really don't think they were that good, but I think we made them look better than what they were, and I think we actually made it a really comfortable game for them, which I never expected at all.
Yeah, you've been too inconsistent so far this season. Well, from the outside looking in, anyways. What's the reason for that? Normally with European football as well as Premier League football, we got that excuse. But this, as you've mentioned, this season you don't have that. So why has it been how it's been so far?
You know what? I couldn't put my finger on one thing that it is as to why. Because I'll be honest with you, there's not really an excuse for it. There isn't. You know, we've not had that high level of injuries. You know, we've not had many injuries. We've got players coming back. We had the strongest bench I think we've ever had since Eddie Howe came into this club, with Wilson on the bench, Trippier, Tonali, Barnes. Like that's a strong bench. Lewis Miley couldn't even get in the squad. Like, that's how strong it was. Like, there's no real excuse. Like, so I can't put one thing on it. It's just pure inconsistency. I think for me, I think there's a little bit of the players turning up one week, not turning up the next. There's just fans not knowing what we're going to get, which is why I feel right now, I don't know what type of Newcastle United I'm going to get going from week to week. Whereas I thought going into West Ham, I knew what I was getting, which is why I was excited about it. And I think part of it has to be on the manager. You know, questionable substitutions, changes of formation. He changed the formation to 4-4-2 on Monday night. Second half, it made us worse. The subs that he brought on made us worse. I didn't argue against the subs, but they didn't help. And, you know, part of that has to lie at the manager's feet, because, you know, he picks the team, he sets the formation, he puts those group of players out there. He has to take some of that flack too. But the attitude of the players, I think, is another big section of that too, because the attitude at times just doesn't look right. I go back to Fulham. When we lost at Fulham, attitude was wrong right from minute one. We never looked like winning that game at all. The attitude against Brighton wasn't right either, and they weren't great. For as good as they've been this season, they were rubbish against us, and we should have won comfortably. And the attitude just wasn't right. And same again on Monday. So
interesting.
a couple of things for me, bro. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah. Sorry, finish.
No, that was it. I was just gonna say they're the kind of the main sticking points. We can go into other little things like set pieces and all these other little bits, but they're the two main reasons: player attitude, manager, making the long decisions.
I did want to talk about Eddie Howe because when he first joined Newcastle, I was one of those ones looking at his time at Bournemouth, and I was asking the questions of, well, it was great at the start at Bournemouth. However, things got predictable. However, I got proven wrong because before joining Newcastle, after that Bournemouth spell, he did go around Europe and learn under different managers. And I respect that a lot because I look at managers like Patrick Vieira, for example, who left Palace and went to another job. And I think he's over in Spain right now. And he hasn't really had time to reflect. He's got the right ideas, but coaching is different to just having ideas. However, that has changed for me at Newcastle. I think he's been more consistent. You've also had spells where you've been in trouble. However, he's got you out of that. When I talk about trouble, not relegation fight, but you've had spells where you've been out of form. But going forward and looking ahead with the expectations that Newcastle has going forward, with the owners that you have at the football club and some of the fans now with the players that you have, do you think Eddie Howe will be a success? Is there any question marks about his future and whether someone else could come in, or do you still have faith in him?
Honestly, D, I think it depends on who you ask. I really do.
How do you feel about him?
For me, I'm a big fan of Eddie Howe. I like how he goes about his business. He's a super professional, properly dedicated to his game, more so than most managers that I know of. In terms of how much he puts into his work. He's the type of manager you would want who gives everything for the cause. My issue is there's a couple of things. I'll be straight blunt with it. As much as I love Eddie Howe and as much as I want him to stay at Newcastle United, I've just got a feeling this is going to be his last season.
Why?
And I don't mean he's going to get sacked. I've just got a feeling there might just be a mutual walk away in the summer, regardless of whether we get European football or not. I don't know why. I just have this feeling. I just get the feeling that the kind of the shine on Eddie Howe and Newcastle United is kind of just starting to rub away slightly. And it goes back to the point that I was going to say about it depends on who you ask, because from January, so December back end of last year, January early this year, when we were going through a really bad spell, losing to Luton, losing to Forest, the rumblings of discontent started with a small section of the fan base. And over that time, even now, it's just getting louder and louder. And yet, social media, it doesn't reflect the whole fan base, but the noises are starting to get louder and more people are starting to kind of question, is Eddie Howe the right man? Now, it doesn't help that we're hearing reports of Jose Mourinho saying, I want to come back to the Premier League and I'd love to manage Newcastle United, which he said, by the way, many a time, even before the takeover, when he was manager of Chelsea, Man United. He's always talked quite positively about Newcastle United because of his connection with Sir Bobby Robson. He was with him at Barcelona. And so he has that affection with him. And I think he would jump at the chance to come back to Newcastle. And that type of noise doesn't help the situation because fans are now starting to look at a small section, are starting to look in different directions. And every time we don't win, those noises get louder, even if it's a draw. And it's continuing to bubble away. So we had 3 brilliant wins in a row. Not a word said. As soon as we lost on Monday night, everyone that's out, bang, it's up again. And it's going to continue on.
Yeah. Do you think it's because of who Eddie Howe is? And I mean this with all due respect, but with Newcastle, I guess the fan base is now expecting, for example, a manager who has maybe won stuff, a manager with a higher reputation than Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is still a very good manager, but there is a level above him as well. And maybe because of the fan base, especially with stadium expansion plans, and some of the players that you have there as well, you got good quality players. Do you think it's a matter of now Eddie Howe has steadied the ship, but we need someone to push us to the next level? Do you think that is the reason why some sections of the fan base is now trying to look at another manager at any given opportunity, basically.
100%. 100%.
I guess
you
that's
know,
a
when it-
positive thing and a negative at the same time, because the negative is that Eddie Howe has to be perfect near enough to get everyone on board, because some people just think there's better out there. The positive is that, you know, you could grab a Mourinho, for example. I know, for example, at Fenerbahce, I know that he's had a rough spell. Then, you know, Fenerbahce's not doing too badly. However, he's had heavy criticism of Turkish refereeing, and he's not exactly happy over there. Then again, Fenerbahce fans could be looking at Jose Mourinho and thinking, you know, yes, you're meant to be Jose Mourinho and you're meant to be great. However, we had a manager who literally lost us one game all of last season, and under Mourinho, we've lost more. So is Mourinho's spell and time in a modern era of football a struggle now? Has he still got it as he did back in the day? So there's two sides of Mourinho. However, you can look at other managers as well. Then again, who really is out there in the manager market that it's like, let's go grab him, he's the next upcoming? Unless you can get maybe a Xavi Alonso, etc. But then again, he wants to go Real Madrid. I don't think he would want to go Newcastle, probably waiting for a level above Newcastle. So it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard in terms of like, in terms of getting a win-win situation. I don't think there is one. There is one with Newcastle, and I think that's due to the expectations. But talking quickly about Palace and your thoughts on Palace, what have you made of us so far this season? One win all season long, even though we're in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, so it hasn't been too bad over there. But we've sold Anderson, Elise. Of course, there was like Gahey rumors that didn't go away all summer. What have you made of us?
Hello, you got, man. Hello, you got. Hey, hold on a second. You were telling us you were going to be on a European charge, man, this season.
I've said top half. I've said top half. If we kept everyone, then 100% we'll be in a more than top half. But that was my aim after, going into the season. I've said it many times on my channel, on Back of the Nest as well. Maybe last year it might have been with the amount of wins, but based on everything that's happened over the summer, even Elise, I mean, if we keep Elise, then that should be the expectation. But right now, the minimum expectation should be trying to finish in the top 10. Saying that, transfer wise, it hasn't been great in terms of replacing Elise rather than Joachim Andersen. I don't think Anderson has been as much of a miss than Elise, and replacing Elise was always going to be hard. But what have you made of us?
You guys have surprised me with how bad it's looked. Like, I'm not going to lie, I've watched a fair bit of Palace this season. Obviously, you know, players that we tend to be linked with, I tend to keep a closer eye on the teams just to watch the player. And I've been keeping an eye on Mark Gay a little bit. So I've watched a few of your games, and I was surprised with how bad it was, because I watched how good you were when you beat us at Selhurst Park last season. And you guys were brilliant. You fully deserved to win. And you looked really good, and you looked a really strong outfit. And to be fair, you weren't wrong in your assessment to say, you know, if we get everything right, there's no reason why we can't push potentially for European football. But it's gone really, really wrong. And you don't look the same outfit at all. You know, you're conceding goals. It looks like you're struggling to put them in the net on a regular basis. There just seems to be a real kind of disjointment to the team. And maybe that's partly because of injuries. I know you've been missing a few players and various other things, but I just, something just doesn't seem right at the club at the moment. And it seems like, and I could be wrong, this is just me on the outside here. It looks like sort of Glasner's under a little bit of pressure to sort of turn this around from being almost the savior coming in and turning everything around in a positive light. He now seems a bit under pressure to turn it around in sort of from a negative back into a positive. And I might be wrong on that, but that's kind of how it seems to me. And I'm looking at your situation, and look, you might have a better answer to this. I'm looking at your situation. I'm thinking you still need to improve this team. And is it a case that you might need to sell somebody in January to potentially fund another set of signings to come in? I don't know.
I know what you're trying to indicate.
I'm just asking the question. I need third player. Just say it.
In terms of the last point that you made, I don't think we need to sell anybody to bring in players. We should have still had a wiggle room that we left over in the summer window. Last January, we were the highest spenders in the Premier League, and I expect something similar in this January window. The reason I've been more worried about Palace sides that haven't been in the relegation zone, but by the performances that we've had in previous times than I am right now. I think right now we do need more players. Yes, 100%. As I said, another creative number 10 is needed. However, Glasner was under pressure. He was under pressure up until the Spurs game where we got our first win of the season. And not only because we beat Spurs, but there has been a change in performances since the Spurs game. And that has been that we've reverted back to the old way that Glasner was playing at the end of last season, which was pressing high up the pitch, which we didn't do from the first game till the Spurs game. We've had injuries all season long. It has gotten worse in recent times. I don't know if you saw the Fulham game, but he had to play in midfield because we literally had no midfielders alongside a youngster. Since the international break, we've faced Villa, which the performance was good. There was nothing really wrong with the performance. It was just down to individual mistakes. And the thing that gives a lot of Palace fans hope is that we are actually, in recent times anyways, even though we haven't picked up more wins than we should have, ever since the Spurs game, we have performed much better. We have been in games. We should have won more games. And right now, the reason why Glasner, there isn't real pressure talks about Glasner right now, despite, before the previous international breaks, there were. And the reason for that is because it's individual mistakes on us that is costing us game. For example, Lacroix, I think he's going to be a better player than Joachim Andersen in the Premier League. He fits the back three even better. But the problem is, against Fulham, he gave the ball away. Sloppy mistake. Same against Villa. He didn't give the ball away, but his marking was a bit off point. And he lost Watkins, I believe, for the first goal, which was very frustrating. However, without Lacroix, for example, we lose Villa because he made two massive challenges and he's been fantastic for us for the large parts of the season. So it's cutting out the individual mistakes. And when you look at our defense, for example, our defense has been good for the large parts. It's just the one or two moments. And the performances have improved. I think it is still going to be a bit of a struggle till January. But after January, I do expect us to bring in a few more players. Without selling, I don't think we will be selling Gahey.
You don't think he's going to go?
Huh?
You don't think he's going to go? It does sound like, and we might not be the only ones actually, but it does sound like one or two are keeping a close eye on him for January.
Yeah.
You might not want to sell him, but do you think if someone, say, for example, for the purpose of the conversation, if we went back in for him, do you think the club might decide, not you, but do you think the club might decide to sell him if the money's there?
It depends on the money. But I said it over the summer window. I didn't see Gahey leaving, like as it reached further on and on, because I know how Palace operate, and I just don't see a scenario of Palace sending Mark Gahey in January. We just, especially with the position that we're in right now. As I said, the club are looking to improve the squad rather than sell Gahey and then improve, because then we're going to get weak in defense. So I don't think that's going to happen unless there's a very good offer, which I don't think anyone is going to offer around that money, because why would you offer that money with the player's contract even going down further? So in the summer, you might be able to get Gahey for cheaper. So I think it would take an amount of around probably £60 million to get Gahey. But why would you pay £60 million for Mark Gahey in January unless you're massively desperate? If there was an offer that we can't refuse, then fair enough. But I don't think we'll be getting an offer like that. And that was the point all along, even in the summer. Like, we didn't want to sell him until we got exactly what we wanted. So, yes, because of his contract running down, he should be valued lower. But that doesn't mean that Palace have to sell him if those valuations are met. For example, I think Gahey, with the amount of time left in his contract, 40-50 million pound, maybe. That should land you Gahey at this point. Or maybe as the summer approaches, even lower than that. But I don't think Palace really care about that right now. Because the matter is that we need to pick up more points. And if we're still struggling around then there's no conversations about Gahey leaving. I don't think there will be. I would be surprised if Gahey ends up leaving.
So you think anywhere between 40 and 50? Because
I think that's what he should be valued.
Right.
But I don't really see Palace entertaining that as well. I think
that's what Newcastle will be willing to pay.
Yeah.
I think that's
I reckon,
and I'm talking about us.
If it was somewhere around £60 million, something like, wow, look at his contract length. look at the money that's been given. Should we seriously consider it and then see if there's alternatives? And I think then, but it needs to be like a wow offer, not in terms of 100 million, but like it needs to be something which doesn't really make sense for clubs to offer Palace with the amount of time left on his contract. So it won't be easy getting Gahey, whoever it is, in the January window, in my opinion, because we're looking to strengthen rather than sell one player and bring other players in, because it's not going to help our situation. Then you're going to get worse in defense. So yeah, I think January might come a bit too soon, but then again, you might as well just wait till the summer, and then in the summer get him for cheaper. I think in summer probably he does end up leaving. I'll be surprised when it's a contract extension.
I don't think we get him in the summer. I personally didn't think we'd go back in for him in January if we didn't get him in the summer. But the noises, obviously, our end and some of yours, from what I've read, that we're interested in going back in, along with sort of like Chelsea, Tottenham looking at him as well. But
Chelsea,
I don't see him coming to us in the summer, and I don't see us going for him in the summer. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I think he'll have a pool of teams interested, which will be great for you. But we're not a team. We're not a club that likes to be in a bidding war. Like we like to know our price, pay it, and get the player. And quite rightly, you would be looking for a bidding war because you'll gain more money from it, whatever it is. So I think for us, it's kind of a maybe a January or never, which is why I think we'd probably pay around the 40, maybe 50 million.
I don't know if we would. I think it should. Realistically, I think with his contract situation, as I've said, I think he should be worth around that figure, but I think you would have to pay even further because of the situation that we're in. So I don't think he still goes for 40, 50. But then again, who knows? But based on what I've seen from the Palace board, for example, over in the summer, after a certain period of time, I knew that Gahey wasn't leaving. Like, it's just very unrealistic, despite the reports. Because that's how we operate. That's how we've been operating for a very long time. But let's talk about some other players just quickly at Newcastle. Any players to look out for? I mean, you look at Isaac, you look at Gordon, especially Gordon so far this season. He's looked good, but if you remove the West Ham game out of your memory, who's been like the standout performance for Newcastle that Palace need to stop?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Gordon. I don't think Gordon's had a good season at all. Not for Newcastle. He's played well for England and obviously got his goal in the international break, which Newcastle fans love. We love having English players representing our country, and it's great to see. But if you ask most Newcastle United fans, they'll say Gordon hasn't been at it this season. We thought it might have been down to the contract situation. He's got his new contract now, but we still haven't seen those performances. He put in a good cross for Isaac against Arsenal. That's really kind of it. He hasn't really, I said it on my reaction show when we lost to West Ham, and I was like, he's a big time player for us now on a big time wage. So now we need to see big time performances. We're not quite seeing that from him. Isaac, on the other hand, was he slowly built into the season. So he started really slow, not really scoring. Then he's picked up his form. He's now starting to score goals for us and Sweden. He was unlucky not to score on Monday. He had a couple of good chances and was unlucky not to score, but he fizzled out the game. But I fully expect him to be back. He's definitely one you need to look out for. For me, Joe Linton is hit and miss, but if we catch him on a good day, he can be unplayable. As we saw against Nottingham Forest, he can be really, really good and properly affect the game. So they're kind of like the two main ones. Of course, you have to look out for Gordon. Callum Wilson. Just keep an eye on Callum Wilson. He may not start, but Callum Wilson knows where the net is, and we've missed that. We haven't scored.
Palace. I feel like Callum Wilson. I don't know why in my head I just remember Callum Wilson. Well, the thought of Callum Wilson scoring goals against Palace. I feel like it's happened.
I was there the last time.
I don't know about Newcastle. I can't remember exactly what games, but he does score goals against Palace. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, I was there the last time he scored at Selhurst Park when he scored the over.
Oh, exactly. He did score, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he does score goals against Palace, and in his interview after the game, he was obviously frustrated because we didn't win, but he just made it clear, I want to be putting the ball in the back of the net. That's my aim now. He's been out for 5 months. He wants to be back playing, and I think he'll be chomping at the bit coming on the pitch. Hopefully, he'll be in a position where we're either winning or needing to get something, and not anything of a consolation. But I think he'll be one that'll be bang at it. And he's different to Isak. Isak likes to run in behind. He's got that pace to run in behind. He's got the trickery with the ball at his feet. Callum Wilson's a bit of he's a brute. He just gets in the battles. He gets stuck into defenders, pulling shirts, battling off the ball, holding up play. Like he's the one that if the ball goes into the box and anywhere between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box, that's where he'll be to put the ball in the net. So they're two different type of strikers, and don't be surprised if both of them are on the pitch at some point in the game. And I just think I would say Isak, Joe Linton, and Callum Wilson as your main kind of open threats right now. But I'm doing a disservice on the likes of Harvey Barnes. He's our top scorer.
I think he's very good. I don't know, you know him better than me, but I think he's a very good player. I don't know why he doesn't play more often. Maybe because
of Gordon, mate. Because of Gordon. Gordon, because of who he is, will prioritize that first choice position. He is first choice. But Barnes is our top scorer alongside Isak this season. He's the guy that knows how to put the ball in the net. So he's a tricky player coming off the bench. And then you've got, Sandro Tonali. I hope he starts. He needs to start for Newcastle United. We need to move out. Sean Longstaff came in and did a job. Sandro, you don't pay 55 million from AC Milan for a centre midfielder, and then when he comes back from his ban, you're playing Sean Longstaff instead of him. I mean, come on, like it's madness. Yeah, he needs to play, and if he gets a run of games and he plays on Saturday, I do believe he'll have a good game. So there's a few players, but Joe Linton, Isak, Wilson, they'll I think be the big three that could cause the biggest threat for Palace.
Yeah, very good players. Some very good players there, of course. If Gordon turns up, he's another solid player as well. Let's talk about score predictions then. I'll be honest, in my match preview that we done on Back of the Nest, I did, for a weird reason, I did think that we could cause an upset and get a win, but it depends on what Newcastle team turn up. But realistically, I see a draw. I think we haven't been too bad defensively. I think as a Newcastle fan, you should be aiming to get a win, rightly so. I mean, who wouldn't with a team that's only won one Premier League game all season long? However, our performances recently haven't been that bad, and what I'm banking on is the fact that Eze should be back in this game. Doucouré, another week of full training. He should be able to play more than 60 minutes. Our midfield has improved in terms of depth. Mateta was very good against Villa. So was Sarr. You add Eze there. I think we've got a bit more now going forward to try to cause some trouble. But yeah, I think it'll be a tight game. But I'm going to go for 1-0. What do you reckon, Pete?
Yeah, look, our form at Selhurst Park isn't great over the years. We don't always tend to go there and play well. So I've got that in the back of my mind. Going into this looking ahead before the West Ham game, I'd have said, maybe a draw because of the fact we're not great there. We've got to win. We have to win. But we have Liverpool after this at St James's Park. We have to pick up a win. So I think the pressure is going to be on us. So for me, because I feel we have to win, I am going to go win. I think it's going to be tight. I do think you'll score. I'm probably going to go for a 2-1 Newcastle win purely because we have to. If we want to maintain this push for European football, everyone's beating everyone at the moment, so we've still got a chance of pushing up there. I think we could go joint 4th with a win at the weekend. That's how tight it is. We're 10th at the moment. So I'm going to go win 2-1 Newcastle, but that's because I think we need it more so than I expect it. Because I don't know what.
Well, we also need it as well.
You do. You absolutely do.
So yeah, I think it should be a tight game though. Either way, I think it should be a tight game. I don't expect, either one of the sides to go 3-0, 4-0, because I mean we've been pretty tight in all of our games so far this season. But let us know in the comment section down below your score predictions. Make sure to check out Loaded Mag NUFC for more Newcastle and also the Palace match preview, which will be on Pete's channel. So make sure to check that out. That's it from Pete and I. And until next time, up the Palace.